I felt like everybody stopped what they were doing to stare at me. Now that didn't happen, but in my mind, that's all I can think of. Like, look at this young dude. He can't even push 90 pounds. Hey guys, how's it going? Thank you for tuning in today. I have a story to share with you guys that I feel is appropriate to the beginning of the year. Now, I know there's two camps that people fall into. There is a New Year's resolution camp, and there is a no to New Year's resolutions. But regardless of what camp you fall into, I feel like the story is for you. I feel like the story will motivate you and inspire you to start or to push through what you already started, because it's something that happened to me. It's been very real. And I constantly look back to this day to continue to push forward because it was definitely a very pivotal moment in my life. Um, so, this was back in April, roughly the beginning of April of 2019. By this time in February, I got released from my stay at Kaiser Vallejo for intense physical therapy, and I began therapy locally here about twice a week in Roseville. And that's where it wasn't as intense, but it was definitely picking up where I left off at Kaiser Vallejo. Um, Everything was going great. I was showing a lot of progression on walking. I was walking for a longer stretch of time. I was getting a lot of endurance back, for sure some mobility, that it was beginning to challenge my physical therapist to try to figure out what else I needed. And then finally, he said a sentence that I kind of was dreading for him to say, that I had to go back to a gym. Because some of the equipment that they have at the therapy center in Roseville wasn't really like weight training kind of thing. And that's where I was lacking at that point of life. I was lacking strength in my muscles, and it was now time to start reactivating those muscles and putting some time and attention. And I had no idea what I was heading into returning back to the gym. I was nervous because I just didn't know what I could and could not do, but I had no idea the psychological challenge it was going to be to show up. But I was excited because that was my goal. My goal was to get back to my normal life, to get back to what I knew was familiar. And going to the gym was something very familiar to me. It was something very natural for me to do. So I go home, I share with my wife, I tell her the good news. She knows me very well, and she knew that there was some hesitation to it. She knew that I was nervous about that good news because it was time to challenge myself again. It was time to push myself to a new level. And what really motivated me and propelled me to actually go to the gym was my competitive nature. And my physical therapist knew that, so he definitely challenged me in a competitive way to get me fired up to go, and it worked. So here I am, first day back at the gym. I'm literally in my car nervous. Like, my palms were sweaty. I've never been nervous to go to the gym. Never been nervous to do something that I'm so familiar with, right? But I was then. And for good reason. I just came from losing all mobility, being paralyzed, to relearning how to walk, to now being pushed to move and lift weights. For sure, he told me to be safe and start off with machinery that I can obviously be a lot more safe with. And of course, that's what I was going to do. So I show up to the gym. I go into the building and I started looking around, and that was my first mistake. I started looking around at all the people there. And although there was very different strides of life in there, there was the super fit ones. They're the ones that you can tell just got into the gym for the first time. There was the ones that are intermediate where they want to push more, but they're kind of holding back. There was the ones that I don't even know why they show up to the gym, but whatever, they were there. And I started looking around, and the first thing that came to mind was judgment. Why? I don't know. I honestly thought that people were going to look at me and say, dude, what's wrong with that guy? Why can't he do X, Y, and Z? So it really started psyching me out. I was going to go straight into some weights, and I didn't. I went to the treadmill and I just turned it on and kind of just walked very gingerly. And I walked in there not limping. And as I was walking through the treadmill, I was honestly so psyched out that I began to limp. And I knew that I got into my head. So, put my headphones on, put some worship music, and just started praying to ask God to help me get through this, right? To allow me to push through. I was trying to channel my competitive nature. I was trying to channel something that would get me to push. But finally, I thought it was time to go to the weight machine. I get off the treadmill and I walk up to the leg press. And I did not know where to start. Do I start with no weight? Do I start with some weight? I don't know. Like, I feel like I blanked out, and all the knowledge that I knew of weight training completely left me. Like, I was there just at a blank. So I just got into the machine and I did it with no weight. And I was able to move it. I was like, okay, all right, sounds good. So I don't know why I thought that I could possibly move 245 plates, 90 pounds. And I put 145 on each side and I couldn't move it. Instantly, I felt like everybody stopped. In my head, I felt like everybody stopped what they were doing to stare at me. Now, that didn't happen. But in my mind, that's all I can think of. Like, look at this young dude. He can't even push 90 pounds. I left. I didn't even put the weights away. I left. And that must have been the fastest that I've walked since my injury, back to my car, and I cried. I sat in my car and I cried for what felt like 30 minutes, but it was probably maybe like 5 minutes. And I was just bawling and bawling tears. I was the most daunting experience I've ever experienced in my life. I've never have had a challenge physically. I've always been very active. I've always been very athletic. Whether I've been good at it or not, I've just always been capable of doing, and this was the very first time that I for once have felt incapable. Now that's crazy, right? Because you get to see where I'm at right now, and if you watch my videos, I'm pushing some pretty good amount of weight. Whether I have an injury or not, like, I'm pushing more weight than an average individual. But I deal with paralysis, so that makes it even more impressive, right? But I didn't know I would get to this point then. There in my car, I had no idea that I will be here today telling you this story. I had hopes, but I honestly didn't know how and what and when I would get to where I am today. So I called my wife and I started telling her how much of a loser that I felt like. That I felt like a loser, that I felt like a failure, that I can't do this. I'm not going to get better. I'm not going to get stronger. That I'm never going back to the gym, that I'm just going to settle and this is my new life and my new state. And my wife did something amazing. She just listened to me and said, "Come home." It was tough, you know, because I either expected her to tell me to suck it up, or I expected her to tell me that everything's gonna be okay and don't beat yourself up. But it was just a silence of like, okay. She let me let it all out. Um, and I would like to tell you that I went back the next day and pretend like nothing ever happened, but that wasn't it. That wasn't true. Um, I literally pretty much quit. I did not want to go back. I was not going to go back. But I did. It was 3 weeks again until until I went back to the gym. And I wish I would tell you that that second time I went back was better emotionally, but it wasn't. I was very broken emotionally every time I went to the gym. Every time. It was a lot more draining emotionally than it was physically. I felt that I went to battle and to war mentally with myself every second I was at the gym. I could not focus. I could not do what I needed to do, but that battle in my mind was necessary. It was necessary for me to fight and fight and fight with my self doubt, with my fear, with my insecurity. And at some point in time, that voice that would want to bring fear into my life, that voice that would tell me that I wasn't good enough, that voice that would tell me that you can't do it, it's not going to happen, died. That voice has been dead. And it was very difficult to do that. It really was. So I don't know what you, the viewer, is going through, whether they're being challenged physically, being challenged emotionally, financially. The message that I want to share with you is that you need to go to war psychologically with what is holding you back. Whatever lie that's being told to you, by you, and even if it was fed by anybody around you, it's not true. You could do it. Yeah, it's not going to look anywhere to how you expect it to look, but you can push through. You can achieve. You can, but the battle needs to be won here. Yeah, God did some amazing miracles in my life to get me here, and He continues to do those amazing miracles. But if I didn't come alongside Him and fight for that, it was my fight, to continue to show up every day, to continue to wake up, to continue to not give up. That was my fight to fight. My God already won the war ahead of me, but it was my decision, it was my battle to push me to get there. And it's the same for you. There's a lot of victories waiting for you out there. They're waiting for you. And I know it's hard. And I know it doesn't feel like it. And I know it's not fun. And I know it's nerve-wracking. But you have to fight. You can't give up. And it is 100% easier said than done. But it can be done. I'm proof. But one thing I do want to make sure that I can't take all the credit for what I have been able to achieve. Okay? And I'm not telling you that it's because I did this led to this, or it was this movement that unlocked that, or whatever ripple effect. No, I did not control any of my recovery. I did not control any of my healing, of my restoration. But what I did was put myself in a position to be ready to receive by fighting. What I did was to put myself in a position to take what it's mine, or take what he was willing to give me. But I don't know where my life would be if I would have given up like I did momentarily in that parking lot. That I can promise you, that I would not be doing what I'm doing now. That I would not be the husband and father that I am now if I gave up. So that's what I'm telling you. I'm not telling you that I led myself to my healing. But I'm telling you that I led myself to the battleground to attain my victory. And that's what I want to share with you. Get yourself to the battleground. Get yourself equipped to get there. And then the victory, if it's yours to have, will be given to you. Whether you got there nervous, broken, hurt, tired, injured, exhausted, whatever it may be, the whole point is just get there. Just get there. I know you can do it. I know you can do it.